Okay, looks like we're live. Today is Thursday, January 5th, 2023. Happy New Year, everybody. This is our first weekly meeting of the new year and post backdrop feature freeze, which is pretty exciting. Before we get into the agenda, we're going to go around the room and have people do introductions. Nate likes to manage these in a very organized fashion, but I like to do them at random to make sure everybody's on their toes. So we're gonna do popcorn. I'll go first to call on the next person. My name is Jen Lampton. I'm joining from Oakland, California. I'm very excited about all of the features we got into 124 that we're gonna talk about later today. And I will pass it on to Martin.
I am Martin in the United Kingdom, a web developer. Pass it on to Robert.
I'm Robert Lang, bug folder on the internet in Altadena, California, and excited about working on contrib modules to get them ready to release at the same time or in response to 1.24. Justin.
Justin Kaiser in Muncie, Indiana, and I'm here because this is only the second one of these I've ever been to. So
I'll go next if no one else. So I'm Greg. I'm usually joining from Australia, Melbourne, but now I'm joining from Greece here for the winter Christmas holidays. Excited about the new release as well. Been reviewing code that other people have produced over the past few months for the new release, and then filing follow-up issues like crazy. Really excited about the potential of things that we can do. Yeah, so many things to do, and so many interesting and challenging things. With that, I'll pass it on to Martin. Oh, Martin, did you go?
Already been.
All right, so then Luke.
All right. I'm Luke McCormick in San Ramon, California, near San Francisco. I'm a web project manager and general gadabout. Excited about all sorts of things we're doing here. And I think Tim's the last one to go, right?
I definitely haven't went yet. I don't know if I'm last, but I'll go now to Tim Erickson, St. Paul Tim. Just recovering from COVID, so probably be a bit quiet today, but feeling pretty good. So I just, other than a cough and a little, tired throat, I think I'm in good shape. And great to see the work that happened. Love the permission filters. That's so cool. Get that in. That's it for me.
Great. Going through the community contributions section, I'm going to start with new projects. In the last week, we got 2 new contrib projects with official releases: administration bar views grouping and enable modules report recipe. And I think both of those came from, I don't know if they came from, but they both were discussed in core issues about things that how we could improve core. And then there were contrib modules for them, and I don't know what the order was, but it seems really cool that there's a lot of core development fueling contrib projects for people who need those features, which is pretty cool. For draft blog posts, we have 2 weeks, well, about 2 weeks to get a blog post ready for the Backdrop 124 release. I assigned that checklist item to myself to go through those new features and make sure they all have that little paragraph at the bottom that's like text for blog posts or whatever. Some of them already have it thanks to our issue template, which is really great, but a lot of them don't. So I haven't gotten to that yet. I'm also starting to add labels for whether they need a translation update or whether they have need change records and stuff. I've gotten through like 3 of them. We got a bunch of new issues. So once I get that done, I'll add a note on the checklist issue, and other people can start on the blog post, and hopefully that'll make it a lot easier to get that written. I checked today's forum post, but there were no new items in it. I'll check it again because I checked it before the last meeting, which is, I guess, good. So if we want to talk about Backdrop 124, The features that we got in are the instant search filter on the permissions page that Tim mentioned, and that is modeled off of our search box on the modules page. It just allows you to hide things with JavaScript to see only exactly what you need. Robert caught a bug with it almost immediately after we added it in. It worked on the main permissions matrix, but there was an issue on permissions page for a single role. We got that, caught it, fixed it, and got that in also. So that's a great turnaround on that. We had a core issue to clean up the API for files. That our access checks for all other entities were a little bit different. So we just made the access checks for files work more like the access checks for other entities. I don't think that's going to affect very many people. We don't have a bunch of contrib modules that do anything with files because most of our media stuff is already in core. But I do think we should have a change record up in case anyone is using it in a custom module. And let's see, we added descriptions for roles. So if you now go to the user roles page, you'll see that each role should have a description on it. And if you edit a role, you have the opportunity to add 2 different descriptions. One of them is the one that shows up there on that description page. And then the other one will show up when you're assigning a role to a person, so that it'll allow administrators to have information for themselves in one interface and information for other people that they need to know when they're assigning roles in another place. We went back and forth a lot on the text in those, and so I would love to have people review that one and make sure that the text we landed on makes sense. We've got a couple, some time to clean that up if we don't like the default values that were added. But in general, that's going to be really helpful. There's also a sort of a secret feature in there where if you're on like a node type form or something and you're trying to assign permissions to someone and you forget what the roles are, you can hover over the column heading and it'll have a little title attribute pop up that'll tell you the description from the roles page, which I think is useful too. Okay. A views field handler for project properties in the database. This is so that you can build a view of all of your enabled modules, for example. And there's the contrib project that came out, I think, leverages this feature, which is great. It also sparked another great issue in the core queue about how we manage our project data. And so I'm hopeful to see a big core improvement in 125 based on the work from this issue in 124. So that's exciting too. We added a configuration option for database log messages. So this is something that's always bothered me when you go to the log page and you can only see like the first however many characters of your message and you're like, oh, I wish I could see all of it. Now you can customize how long you want that length to be. So if you want to see 255 characters of message on that page, you can, or you can make it any length you want. So there's now a setting, it's a system core setting. You can leave it or change it if you want, which is great. We, this is a good one, added a back to site button in the administration bar. So when you are on the front end page of your site and you go to edit something and you get thrown deep in the bowels of Backdraft and then you click around and you want to get back to wherever the heck you were before, you can click on the home button and instead of just taking you to the home page of your site, it'll take you back to where you were before you went to the back, which is really helpful. And it isn't a home icon anymore. It says back to site.
Hey, Justin.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a huge win.
That was Justin's first core contrib.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Congratulations.
It was.
Great job.
And then the last new feature we got in was to add a rebuild search index process. So Greg and I did a bunch of work on that search index form when it first went into Backdraft. We're like, why does this work this way? It's so dumb. There was a button that said rebuild search index that did not rebuild your search index. So we cleaned up the form to rename the button, but Nate and Argipiano went through and were like, why don't we just actually make it rebuild the search index, which is what people really wanted. So now there's a nicely batched process that will rebuild your search index for you, which is really great. So I'm happy to see that get some attention 7 years later, whatever it is, which is really good too. So those are all the features that we currently have in 1.24.0. I would encourage everybody who hasn't tested the preview release, which is out now. You can get it both from the GitHub repository or on the More Ways to Try backdrop page. It's at the very bottom of the page there. You can grab a download of it. Just give it a test, especially these new features. Make sure you don't find anything weird happening. If you can think of strange use cases we might not have tried for stuff, that would be great. We've got a couple weeks to get any changes into if you don't like the text we're using places or want to improve interfaces or what have you. So that's it for 124. Lost my agenda. Let's see. Well, is there anything else anyone wants to bring up today? Might worth to be discussed.
So many things. So many.
We've
Just
just put something in the chat about 5911, which is about how we notify people who are updating using the UI updater that they need to do a manual step.
Yeah, so in this latest version of Backdrop Core, we did include a change to the htaccess file to support PHP 8. And so this is one of those rare occasions where we have changed these files outside of the core directory. And most people who are updating core manually will probably know to do that. But if you're using the user interface, it only replaces that core directory. And as pointed out, would be very nice if we showed something in the user interface to let people know that the other things need to be done. So I think this is a good idea. I don't know how we do it.
Yeah, it's a difficult nut to crack. I've been trying to think of ways. Like one of the biggest problems and why we chosen to leave these files alone is that people might have customized it according to them actually to the sites of the needs of the sites, and there's no way currently to know if they have done so. So we don't know if they've customized it, and what we have chosen to be doing so far is just to leave them alone.
Yeah, I think that's the right choice. But even in just like how do we tell people that there's a change? Like trying to figure out how that setting could be delivered. Like we might need like a state variable that would be like notify of, core file change update or whatever. And then when we do an update that has one, we could add an update hook that would change the state of that variable. And then they would get a little warning on their site somewhere that would say that they need to do it. And then once they've read the warning, they'll have the option to like dismiss this warning, and that would change the state variable back. It's the only thing I can think of, because we don't really want a permanent config setting for it, because then you might turn it on otherwise. So I think
there's a few things that I thought with this specific change that triggered this whole discussion. If you upgrade your site, or like I did my local sites, I changed the default on Lando, which was 7.4 PHP to 8. And then randomly, after many weeks, I started seeing that certain settings wouldn't take. And then Martin jumped in and said, you know what, we did add PHP 8 support, but we didn't do that for htaccess. And I go, yes, that's right. What this triggered for me is that I never touched that file. So if we had a way to know that this is a vanilla htaccess file, it has never been changed. It's what was shipping with previous versions of core, no customizations. Why not automatically update it instead of warning people? If we had some way to check some previous versions of these files and make absolutely sure that they haven't been touched, they haven't been customized, why not update them instead of just notify people, which some of them might not be technical, and tell them, hey, you have to go and manually add these sections. We just update it. And then you'll have those few sites, or maybe I'm making assumptions here, those few sites where people are technical and they're going to change it, update it on their own. But for some of them, we're going to do it transparently if it's absolutely safe to do so.
Yeah.
Like if nothing has changed in these files. And I'm saying these files. Yeah, sorry.
One thing so I'm trying to think of like how to do this.
We do have a mechanism for the HT access in files where it's also in code. and there is a thing that can actually, I think it might actually be in security, the security review module that checks whether that is
Yeah.
the same. But I think there must be something in core that uses that as well to check.
But
So
the HT
that,
access file in files is like 4 lines long.
Yeah.
And so putting that into like a string somewhere as a variable or whatever is pretty easy. But for things like the install file, it's going to be a lot harder. I was thinking we might be able to do something like hash the file and store the hash along with the core version. And then that way, when we do an update, we can hash the file again. And if it's the same, we'll know that it's the same as the previous core version. And that might be a good way we can check it. And then we could have a hash for each file. And so we could have, okay, update htaccess, but don't update settings.php, obviously. Or we could just never update settings.php because your backdrop site wouldn't run unless you changed that.
Well, this is what we're discussing now is the general problem, but there's a specific sort of like follow up with this specific change. We can detect if people have PHP 8, and we can detect if their htaccess file has the section about PHP 8, and we can throw a warning, say, hey, seems that you updated to PHP 8, but your site doesn't have a section that supports that in htaccess. This is what you will need to do.
Interesting. So we could add an update hook just for this, regardless of all of these other changes we should also do. That says check for PHP version, check for PHP version settings we're setting, and if they're not set like
not PHP settings, htaccess.
Sorry. Well, yeah, those are we set PHP settings in htaccess. It's a we said
but the section the section that was added was in htaccess. We didn't touch settings.
No, in that section in htaccess, what we did is change the settings for PHP globally on the system. And so in our code, we can say, what are the global settings for PHP? And we can tell if those have been modified or not. Yeah, so I know there's another setting in the file for PHP settings.
Exactly.
Like, I don't know the same words for different things. I'm sorry, I'm not being clear. But yeah, I think that we do have a way to write an upgrade path, and we could add a well, the question is, where do you want the message if you were upgrading your site? Would it happen on the like?
I think we need an issue for that to start the discussion, and then we'll figure out a way to do it. But
okay,
what I was trying to get at is that I got myself into a situation where I didn't know what was going on. I would at least, I know that as an end user, I would appreciate even a status page notice that says, hey, your htaccess does not support the version of PHP you have. Does not fully support. That's more precise, right? So certain settings that you have previously added may not work, right? So this is more or less the wording. And then they can go off and do it manually. That's the very least that we can do for this release. And then if we can manage to have an update hook that updates that file, if it hasn't been changed, actually it's a separate section, so we can relatively easily update it. But yeah.
I think this is like 3 new features.
I
think we have the one that's like just check the PHP settings and the PHP version and like throw a system requirements check always anytime those things are out of sync and be like, hey, your things are out of sync. The second one is anytime we change these files, we can do a state variable to notify people that the files have been changed. And then the third one is we should hash each previous version of the file and put that in a hidden setting somewhere so that when we do the update, we can compare the file hash and notify people or update the pages if people, if we can, if they're safe. But I think we need them all, because even if none of the core files have been changed and an update happens and it's safe to write, we still might not have like permissions to write to any files outside of the core directory. And so it would still be valuable to have that warning that's like, hey, you still need to change this file, because there are reasons that we might not be able to do it seamlessly. So I think, I don't know which one of those is the current issue. We should make 2 other issues.
No, I don't think that we have a current issue. Only the issue that we started with, that Martin actually started and then I chimed in, was with regards to notifications. Just when people update, have a way to notify them that, hey, this file has changed or this file has changed. The thing that we are now doing in our release notes, somehow communicate that in the UI. That's the point.
Yeah.
Cool.
We could also do that for if update.php needs to be run, because that's another thing we put in our release notes, and you just brought this, so maybe 4 issues from this idea. Because that's something that if you didn't read the release notes and just updated core could be easily overlooked. And if you're running with your database and your code in different states, that can present all kinds of problems. We could also check that too, in the same way that we do the files check or notify people of the files change. So these are great ideas. I think all of this is going to make Backdrop a much more friendly piece of software to work with. Greg, are you creating issues wildly over there?
No, I was hoping that you wouldn't ask me that, because I have so many tabs open.
That's fine. That's fine. You don't have to open any more tabs. You looked busy, and you said you had other things you wanted to talk about, but I didn't want to interrupt if you were busy creating
No.
issues.
I was busy trying to find an issue where, so I think this was Robert, who has now left the meeting, that has created this PR that simplifies certain things for Debug and puts it in a nice field set as well. And then I followed up with another issue to do the same thing for Syslog. And I tried to start doing that, but then I realized that we have an older issue. And in that issue, when you enable system log, there's a legend of variables that you can use to format the system log. And these act like sort of like the tokens, like you can put them and then they get replaced with something in the end, but they're not exactly tokens. And I hijacked the token browser to sort of like make it more user-friendly, I guess. Instead of people having to copy paste these tokens or these variables, they could click them. And I was wondering, I thought that it wasn't a feature request, it was a task and I was wondering if we can get it in by the official release would be.
What's the issue number?
I'm trying to find it.
Oh, okay.
Among the too many tabs, I'm trying to find it. Oh, find it. 4615. So the issue summary is not up to date. It's an early iteration from 2020, where I was thinking to shove all these tokens inside a field set and then have it be collapsed when it's not needed, just to shorten the form. But if you look at the very last comment in that issue, there's a screenshot of what I've done now, which is basically I've wrapped.
I'm going to propose an alternate issue.
Yep. Which one?
1260.
1260. Let's see. This must be one of the old forgotten ones.
It is indeed.
Just bear with me. 1260. My computer so slow. So many things. It's not just the open tabs. It's also the Lando sandboxes I'm working on that I have running. Just bear with me. Fair enough.
So this is we do have Syslog in core. Syslog module, if you enable it, does nothing, which is a very strange experience for people who are using modules. It requires having things set up on your server that are running and ready and listening to it. We don't have a lot of things in core that don't do anything by themselves without like actual support in core, but we can't actually have support in core for something that runs on your server. So it was proposed early on that we just remove Syslog to prevent that issue. There were some arguments that Syslog is really valuable for like really high traffic sites and things where you don't want to have database transactions for your logging. But then it was also argued that those sites are the ones that are most capable of installing a module that they might need anyway. So yeah, I would just encourage people to review. Do we really want Syslog in core? If you have thoughts on it, please comment in issue 1260. If it looks like we do want to keep Syslog in core, this issue Greg's talking about 5911 will add some improvements to Syslog in the same way we just did for.
I'm seeing this from the I can't help but correlate things and features with my day job, which is GovCMS, and it's a platform that supports many sites, multiple sites, right? And by design to reduce cost, which is one of our goals as a project, right? For the Amazon containers that basically hold all these hundreds of sites, dblog is disabled because it's a what you call it, a very cost hungry, resource hungry thing. So having Syslog in core, well, look, we have the counter argument is that we have the project browser, people can install it equally easily, right? But currently as it is, Syslog is in core and disabled. But there will be D7 sites that do have it. And it would make it easier if it was in core and all they had to do is enable it. Just to answer, because I have forgotten about this issue, I have responded there. That was in 2015, right? Really early on.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, I would like to review the complexity of the code, like the amount of code that is in core and how much this module has concerned us in the past. Like, I don't think it has.
I don't think it's concerned us at all because I don't think anyone's using it.
Using it, right? Okay, yeah, fair argument, right?
So I don't know if that's a pro or a con. Like, it's not bothering us, but like it's also not any value. So I don't know.
Yeah. I think that this calls for a telemetry thing. Even if not shown in the telemetry, at least we should have numbers to back it up and say out of the 2,500 backdrop sites, no one's using it. So
Yeah.
it's moving to control. Fair enough.
Well, maybe
yes.
I'll go find the telemetry issue that says record currently enabled modules and link that one up too.
Yep. Yeah, it seems like a fair approach. And then my feature can go in the contrib module. So if we decide to move it to contrib. Yep.
This is probably covered in there already, but is there no way to ping the system to find out if Syslog is available?
You mean if the operating system Syslog is available?
Yeah, like it's possible to turn it on and have a message pop up, say, okay, we turned it on, but nothing's going to happen because you don't have Syslog.
That's not the point. So Syslog does that already. Like it detects the facility and allows you to it's called facility, right? There's different levels of user facilities. The point that Jen is trying to make is that when you're in shared hosting, you don't even have access to Syslog to begin with. It would help if you are in a service provider, in a hosting provider, that you have engineers that are looking at the logs and then helping you out to sort out issues with your site, then yes, that would help you. But it would have to be a an accumulation of coincidences or conditions or factors, I would say. It would have to be a pretty huge site that is concerned about its performance, and they have decided to actually disable dblog and move to Syslog. Their hosting provider would need to accommodate for that. And then I'm assuming that the site owners or the person that they have assigned the management of their site needs to have access to Syslog, which is kind of tricky for shared hosting. So this is the point that Jen was trying to make as well. I'm assuming it's like, it's not a tool that our target audience would go for. That's the thing.
Yeah.
And for
not anymore. It used to be easier. Like I remember there was a previous version of Linux where it was just like one file, and they made it like this more, plugging thing that became much harder to implement the whole logging thing.
So the good thing with dblog is that you can get direct access to the logs from the UI. right?
Okay.
There's a facility that shows you these logs. Like with Syslog, everything gets logged to an outside third-party service of the server, and then you need to specifically have access to that. We don't pull any information. We don't have any way to pull in any information and show it in the admin UI. But yeah. All right, cool. And then what other issue was interesting? Yes, one thing that I'm very interested is this. There's a couple of issues that have been filed to accommodate for people that are coming in the forum. And like we have noticed that there's repetitive questions of what version of Backdrop are you on? What version of PHP are you using? So we sort of like have two issues raised where, or more, maybe three, where we're trying to facilitate that, to provide easy ways so that we can say to people, go to this place and then copy paste everything that's there and let us know, right? So Tim has been working, and Indigozella have been working on a views based solution, which is just for the modules, just to provide a list with the modules. And they're not exactly blocked, but Tim has created a Tim. Maybe I'll let you speak about it, or like you've created a recipe, right?
Sure. Okay. I was a little bit tuned out. You caught me off guard.
Yeah, sorry.
The enabled modules report. So I mean, the status of that is that I just requested that feature because somebody was asking for, like, in the forum, for somebody to share a list of the modules that you had enabled. And there's not an easy way to copy and paste that. So I shared that concern. It turns out it's fairly easy to create a report like that with views. So Indigozella whipped up a PR that just uses views to create that report. Now, that was meant to be just a proof of concept to start the discussion. And then a whole bunch of things came in saying, well, what if we did this? What if we did that? What if we did this? So I just took that PR and made a recipe, so that there's a recipe module right now with that PR. And basically that's all I did, is I copied and pasted the view that Indigozella had created based on the feedback from RG Piano, I think, is the one who originally showed us that. But anyway, so I don't know that, I mean, that to the extent that issue is blocked, it's blocked by what is the right solution in core, if any. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, not I'm basically saying that these are interesting things that would help the community and those that are working in the forum, and maybe we should try to get something in, because it's a task, basically. It's not, well, it is a feature, but let's say I'm eager to get something in so that people that are new to Backdrop, when they post questions in the forum, you have an easy way to tell them, hey, this is how you can grab some information. Yep. And then I think Jen and I had a task in our to-do list. When we create issues in GitHub allows you to have a template that actually provides actual fields where people can fill in. Like, it could be a select which version of Backdrop you're using and stuff. We never gotten to actually do this, but if we had an easy way to request that when people raise an issue, they actually, as a habit, copy paste that bit of information, and we say, please head to your site under reports, debug info, whatever you call it, and paste that, so we know which PHP you're running, what database, what web server, just to begin with. So yeah, I was trying to cover that need, which is continuous, making life easier for those that are reporting issues and those that are helping people in the issue queue and in the forum.
Do you have an issue number for that one?
I was working on, yeah, just bear with me. So there's two issues that I know of. There's leaked issues on that. So one of them is 5791. I actually have a sandbox on my local that I can demonstrate what I have, if you're curious. And then what was the other issue?
I love this.
The status report issue is 5821. Printable status report, which they're basically the same thing.
Yeah. Well, one is for the views-based solution. I'll go ahead and share my screen real quick. Just let me find. So please excuse any debug messages that I'm showing, but basically this is what I have currently. Let me make this a little bit wider. So I've chosen for that to go under status report, but we can move it anywhere we would like. So there's a thing that goes under report, status report, get debug info, and then people can this loads the information via Ajax. If it's sort of like, just bear with me because my computer is so you get this basic information, but then if you switch to say contrib modules, then you get that, and then so basically people can either manually copy it, or eventually when this works, copy it to clipboard or save it as a text file that they can upload. So this is what I have currently. But
It's nice, Greg. I like it.
Yeah. So this can be CGEM that we have that filter, that issue about the filtering core, contrib, enabled, disabled, themes, whatever you want to include. We can make these filters, even like improve them in the future to just specifically allow people to choose things. But this is what I've gotten so far, and this is the bit where I like the views-based solution doesn't provide a plain text thing that people can copy paste. It's still useful, but yeah, this is what I have so far, and this is not anything new. It's basically a mimicking another paradigm that we have here, basically. And the copy to clipboard thing was an old request that Luke has made back in the past for this. Sorry, excuse the slowness. So this is basically the same as this, where you can go and say configuration and then admin bar settings, and you have the settings here, right? You can copy and paste. And Luke said that he wanted to have a copy to clipboard thing here, or an export thing, or save.
An issue for that.
Yes, we have an issue for that as well. So basically, I'm mimicking this interface, but in order to get debug info and provide an easy way for people to just,
I like that.
I like it.
The view solution was just meant to get the discussion going. By no means did we assume that was the best.
Yeah. So now my confusion is that I had this idea, maybe I didn't articulate it properly. I think that this is what Doc Wilmot had in mind as well, just an easy way to get debug info. But now it feels like, rereading all the comments in these issues, my solution, which is a proof of concept, maybe feels like I was asking, like, should I post that as a pull request here or the other issue, or now I'm feeling that maybe it could be a different issue or what have you. Anyway, but yeah, I would like. I know that this is a new feature, but I would like to call it a task so that I can get it in faster, so that people can start using it.
Anything that needs tests
Yes.
has to be a new feature, and this is definitely going to need automated tests.
Yeah, so we're gonna have to wait another 3 months or so. 3 or 4
Yeah.
months.
But I love it. This is sort of what I had in mind, rather than like building a whole separate page to print out all the information over again, just having like an export of like, here's your data. This is nice. Yeah.
Okay, so I'll see if people agree, and then I'll either repurpose one of the existing issues. I think that I'm not sure, Tim. Maybe the
I don't think it matters. You could change the one it's in, or you could put it in the printable status report. I think it works for either. And for me, it's definitely. I opened up the first one. And it's definitely a friendly amendment. So
yeah. The other thing is that people said that they would like things from, like, they said, why would we get a list of modules? We already have the list of modules. And people said, but people cannot print screen necessarily, or it's not in the proper format. And then that got me thinking that while I was coding this solution, that we could inject these text fields with a simplified form of what we have, for example, in the status report page. This is hidden. We have the beautiful table, and it's hidden somewhere below the fold, like with display none or something. And there's still a copy to clipboard button that copies that text. So it allows basically people to, again, go to a place that they're used to get information from and get a plain text stripped down version, only the basics that they can provide to their support team or community. So yeah, that's another approach that I would like to follow up after we get the basic in.
Yeah, I think that would be great. And just to, and also if that, I don't know how thorough your issues, but if there was an API for making that export list pluggable, then like any contrib module that wanted to give
That's
you
what
like
I
a
said.
list of web forms or whatever could plug that into. And then we could have another button that's like get export data that you could put anywhere. So whether there's a module page or the web form page or wherever else, if you've implemented that API, you have a callback for that button that'll give you the print whatever.
I haven't, but my last comment in one of the issues, I haven't implemented that, but one of the comment was that we can add a hook so that contrib can add drop down menus there, and they can, like, maybe UberCut needs, I don't know, number of products or things like that, or CV needs something. So
this would be wonderful for UberCart because there's a bunch of settings and they're sprinkled throughout several modules. And yeah, this would be really good if it was wonderful.
Yeah, I haven't implemented the hook yet. I'm still in a very draft, like even the links that say copy to clipboard and download as text file, they're dummy. There's an alert that comes up and says this does nothing. So
yeah, I would remove that and let's add the copy to clipboard thing everywhere we want it in core in that other issue that's like add copy to clipboard. And if this is in first, it'll go here too. And then if it's not, we can just use whatever code's in there for that.
Yeah, because I was looking then recently in Drupal they added a copy to clipboard thing for the composer command that you need for modules, like in its project page. And I was digging through the code to see if I can reuse that. And then I was led to a contrib module. They're not using that, which is called clipboard.js. And it's like a 3 kilobyte library that can inject buttons, copy to clipboard buttons. And if we are to reuse that, and then if contrib is to reuse that, maybe it's worth including that in core. But that's a totally follow-up separate issue. All right,
I think the actual action of copying to clipboard is like a one-line JavaScript thing. And so I suspect that Nate might look at that and be like, we could write our own and it would be way leaner than this other thing. So I don't know, but yeah, I love this whole train of thought about how to get that
the reason why the people are using that clipboard.js was, I think, that there was no Crush browser support or things wouldn't work the same. But maybe nowadays we don't have to worry about it. Who knows? So yeah. All right. And the other interesting thing is, I can't remember who was bringing up these things, but we're running out of time. I don't know what triggered that, but we have an issue about implementing smart menus for the admin bar. And I think that I remember now what the issue was, the long lists of content types and things that go off below the fold, of the screen. So yeah, these are interesting issues that I would like to be involved in. I'm not very confident with my JavaScript and menu wrangling things, but I would be able to test and provide code reviews if someone tackled that. Sorry, I hogged the whole, like, did you want to bring up something section of the meeting?
No, we got the other issue first. We got Martin's issue. So that's good.
Cool.
Yeah. We're also out of time, but I am so excited about all of the new stuff people are working on right now. So there's a lot of stuff that I'm like, yes, I've always wanted that. Let's do it.
Cool.
All right. Well, see you next week.
Yep.